I'm Richard Southern in the 680 newsroom. A higher week for Bay Street in the books. TSX picked up some ground this past week. The loonie didn't, though. The Canadian dollar this weekend kind of in the dumps, actually at its lowest level since last June. Around 76.5 cents U.S. takes $1.31 Canadian to buy $1 US. Pressuring the loonie this week was Stephen Poloz, Governor of the Bank of Canada, hinting that he's going to be cautious when it comes to future interest rate hikes. The market pricing in only a 27% chance of an interest rate hike when the bank meets next month. Boy, big news out of the retail sector this week. Toys R Us done in the United States. The 70-year-old retailer closing up shop, closing all its 700-plus U.S. stores, putting 33,000 people out of a job. Of course, it filed for bankruptcy last year, struggling under a mountain of debt. There is a chance the Canadian stores will be saved. They are open for business this weekend, and there is a group of toy makers getting together, led by MGA Entertainment. They're the makers of Bratz dolls. They've submitted a bid to buy the Canadian operations. No guarantee this is going to go through. Industry analysts, they're not convinced it's actually going to work, that the Canadian stores will be able to go it alone. But so far, Toys R Us Canada open for business, still accepting gift cards and the like. The CEO of one of Canada's largest restaurant chains was out talking about the impact of the higher minimum wage here in Ontario, and he actually had only positive things to say. This is Bill Gregson from Cara Operations. They own Harvey's, The Keg, Swiss Chalet, Eastside Mario's. He says the company's managed the impact of Ontario's minimum wage hike through selective price increases and menu changes, and he said that sales have actually been stronger in Ontario than in the rest of Canada since the minimum wage went up to $14 per hour. Supporters of the wage hike have argued that it could stimulate consumer spending. Detractors have warned that it could spur inflation if businesses pass along price hikes. So far, Mr. Gregson from Cara Operations says consumers haven't pushed back against these selective price increases. Well, say cheese, I want to show you something cool. What we're going to look at here is the most expensive camera in the world. It sold at auction this past week. This is a camera from 1923, sold for the equivalent of 3.8 million Canadian dollars. It was one of just 25 prototypes made by the German photography manufacturer. At the time, were among the most innovative compact cameras in the world. The buyer, a private collector out of Asia. Well, you know, self-driving vehicles are coming, but before we see people riding around in autonomous vehicles, it's going to be goods that will be shipped. And what we're going to look at here now is this is an 18-wheeler, the first self-driving 18-wheeler to make a coast-to-coast trip. This is trucking company Embark bringing the self-driving semi from Los Angeles to Jacksonville, Florida. We're looking at the empty driver's seat there. There was, though, a human in the cab for safety reasons. It took the trip 5 days, which included rest breaks for the human that had to be on board, but nobody ended up touching the wheel. Company says it's looking at implementing this, though they're not trying to get rid of human drivers. They say they're using it as a means to deal with a growing driver shortage. St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you. Wanted to get some booze stories in here tonight. Beer and liquor going to cost us a bit more at festivals in the Toronto area this summer, and that's because the cost of getting a special permit to serve liquor has gone way up. It's gone from $75 to $450 for a 3-day permit to sell alcohol. So the cost will likely be passed on to festival goers who go to, you know, the beer festival or the cider festival, and some worry this could have these smaller festivals scaling back on their operations. And a UK brewer is out with a special beer to mark the upcoming nuptials between Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. And the beer, called Harry and Meghan's Windsor. Not very appropriate for this wedding. It's a mix of American and English hops. Some of the barley in the beer comes from Queen Elizabeth's very own Windsor farm. And this is from the Windsor and Eton Brewery, which is just a 5-minute pub crawl away from St. George Chapel, where the two will get married in May. Happy St. Patrick's Day. In the 680 newsroom, Richard Southern, City News.